I'm Ryan Newman, and since I started with Indiana Donor Network and Driven to Save Lives, I found out that some people think that they can't be an organ donor. The truth is, anyone can sign up to be an organ donor.
Anyone?
Anyone?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Anyone can sign up to be an organ donor. So don't count yourself out because somebody's counting on you. Go to driventosavelives.org and sign up today.
But my heart's going to you, Ryan.
Love that shirt.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another night of iRacing action here on the National Racing Network, where tonight it will be the stars and cars of the U.S. Open Wheel C-Class Indy Pro 2000 Series taking on the Iowa Speedway. My name is Chris Graham, joined in the booth, as always, by Mr. Patrick Byrne, and James Watson will be joining us for the USF2000 race. He'll be in the car for this one, acting as an in-race reporter. And I'll tell you what, Bissell, your destiny's not in Erie tonight. It's in Iowa, brother. 7/8 of a mile, 12 to 14 degrees of banking. This place is going to be bad fast for these Indy Pro cars.
I absolutely love this track, no matter what I drive it in. Indy Pro cars, stock cars, full-sized open-wheel cars. This place is absolutely a riot to get around. It's like flying a jet fighter in a gymnasium.
Yes, it is. It is going to be a fantastic show here tonight. And qualifications just getting ready to roll. And, well, let's see. I am seeing some interesting names with some interesting numbers on the car here tonight. Actually, quite frankly, I'm going to reset the timing and scoring graphics just to make sure that we've got all these right. But yeah, this is what we're seeing right now out on the track is Mr. James Watson carrying the number 1 tonight. We forget about these. It's an oval week deal. So that means the long and short here is that the drivers with the highest oval I rating will carry the number 1. The other one that's really interesting, I am not seeing David Porcelli, our points leader. He did say he was going to be on vacation. Alexander Wesley Hazelworth is not in this race. Everett Paddock, not in this race. Mobin Khan, 4th in points. I don't know that he's in this one either, as Teddy Burns goes quick time, 21.158. Brian Labarge, second quick. Richard Holt, Nagisio Shikawa, Brian Karszewski, top 5. New quick time, James Watson, 21.152.
Sometimes we also forget that James Watson actually knows how to drive a race car.
Yeah, we give him a hard time. Oh, Carter Lundy, he was sandbagging like you wouldn't believe. 21.094. In the practice sessions just before the race, Lundy talking about not being able to get out of the 21.3s. Magically finds himself 0.3 of a second as we'll pick up Brandon Lichtenberg, who will be carrying the number 2 here this evening. Oh, he goes for a slide, kisses the outside wall. He will have to take the reset. We'll now pick up Mike Long in car number 16. 2 minutes and 50 seconds remaining in the qualifying session. Ben Carswell, Brian Molitor, and Chris Kresge also out on the racetrack as we speak. Brian Labarge moves himself up to 8th quick. Brian Molitor on lap 1. He moves himself up to 7th. A little bit wide off at turn number 4. Lap number 2 will come to a conclusion for Brian Molitor. Second quick, 21.132, only 38 thousandths off of the top spot. Chris Kresge to 5th quick on his second lap. Let's pick up Ben Carswell, the last driver that will get a shot to take time. He's coming around to conclude lap number 1, and it will not be the faster of the 2 laps here for Carswell. How about it, Bizzle? I am looking at timing and scoring. identical lap times for 9th and 10th place, Brian Labarge and AJ Camargo, and they are the first cars 1/10 of a second apart off the race leader.
Yeah, we've run this track a lot with these cars, and these guys have had probably what feels like a decade now to perfect the setups on these cars. All the good setups been passed around, so it's almost like it's a fixed setup race tonight. And it's going to be an absolute pack race. This place is just like Daytona or Talladega in a stock car. It's going to be completely flat out the whole time. You might need to give her a little breather to the throttle if you're really running down low in the draft, but that's about it.
Yeah, as we're picking up the starting grid here, we'll see everybody start to come into view. And, well, let's give you tonight's starting lineup for the Indy Pro 2000 official 70-lap feature coming up here from Iowa Speedway. Carter Lundy will be your pole sitter in the players' colors at a 21.094 second lap. On the outside, only 38 thousandths back will be the number 10 of Brian Molitor. Jacques Villeneuve helmet livery on that number 10 machine for Molitor. Row number 2 will have the Homestead Coffee Roasters, Tales from Rubicon, number 5 of West Shire, lining up alongside the Target Chip Ganassi Racing Lightning Bolts of Richard Holt. Row number 3, the RIL number 11 of Chris Kresge, lining up alongside of the Team Watson Racing setups, number 14 of Vic Aldrich. Row number 4, carrying the number 1 here tonight, the Team Watson Racing Setups National Racing Network ZAS Designs number 1 of James Watson, lining up alongside of the Team Watson Racing Setups number 8 of Ben Carswell. Row 5 will have the Downforce Racing number 4 of Ted Burns alongside of the NASA Meatball of Brian Labarge. Row number 6, the Team Watson Racing Setups National Racing Network number 15 of Nieje Camargo out of Brazil, and the unsponsored number 16 of Mike Long. We got to work on some logos for that car right there. Another unsponsored machine, this one belonging to Brian Karszewski inside of row number 7. He will be lining up alongside of the Team Watson Racing Setups number 6 of Nagisa Yoshikawa. Row number 8, the Citizens Climate Lobby number 12 of Mike Holler alongside of the number 2 of Brandon Lichtenberg. 16 cars on the grid here tonight. 70 laps will be the distance. You'll see the pace car make that hard left-hand turn, and we haven't done one of these. Well, maybe not. Oh, no, I guess, yeah, they get 2 pace laps, don't they? Because it's under a mile. So,
yep.
They'll get another shot.
Iowa Speedway.
Man, what are we going to talk about for the next 7 minutes while they make a pace lap?
Well, first off, they're going into Iowa turn number 1, which is a left-hand corner. But they're going to now be approaching Iowa turn number 2. Also a left-hand corner, still the same curve, but we do consider this turn number 2. Now as they approach the back straightaway, they're going to go dead straight down here until they get to turn number 3.
Why do we do that? There's not 4 turns here. There's 2.
There's 3.
And a dog leg.
The reason we do that is because you have the profiling entering the banking, the mid-corner, and then the profiling exiting the banking. Why isn't Zandvoort's hairpin considered 2 turns? Don't ask me.
Marshall posts. Pace car is in. Green flags out. We are underway here. Great start for Carter Lundy. Molitor's going to have to contend with West Shire as they head off for turn number 1. This race does have the ability for caution flags to be displayed. The D-Class race coming up here in about 50 minutes or so will not have cautions. Carter Lundy got out to a huge break. It was a half second first time by the start-finish line. Molitor and Kresge way up on the top side of the racetrack. They're going to have Richard Holt sliding in just behind, but on the bottom it will be West Shire, Ted Burns, and James Watson. Kresge makes the big dive, almost trying the crossover maneuver. easily can go 3 wide around this place if you can handle it through the corners, as Kresge sets the fastest lap of the race at a 21.635. Man, Kresge again flying around this place. He's having a look outside of Lundy into 3.
Kresge, not a name we've seen a lot running here at all on iRacing, and kind of forgot about him as being one of the top dogs in the Indy Pro 2000 car, but he's showing he's still got it here on the oval.
Yeah, he ran the IRL league, and with the whole you can't broadcast Indy cars and stuff, it really hurt. Oh, and Kresge's in the wall! Kresge sliding along the safer barrier. He's going to fall all the way back through the field. Oh my goodness, they were almost 4 wide for the race lead entering turn 1. Still 3 wide for the top spot. Lundy on the bottom, Burns in the middle, Holt up on the high side.
This track is always absolutely nuts. I'm just kind of speechless. We're going around here 2-3 wide. This track's only 7/8 of a mile long.
7/8 of a mile long, and this race will end in a big-time hurry. We're talking right about 20 minutes from now if this thing stays green. However, you do have to lift a little bit in lap traffic, and as the tires start to wear and the fuel starts to go down on these cars, maybe not as bad as the Silver Crowns we saw on Monday night, but still, you're going to have to watch how you handle this car late in the race.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a handful because there's only 2 ways to set this car up. This car, I've tried, you'll never get it neutral. It's either going to get more and more understeery or it's going to get more and more oversteery. Both of which are not fun and both of which are very, very scary to drive. I always tended to lean more towards the oversteer side. I believe there's footage of me on Race First. Full opposite lock coming out of turn 4 here and saving the car. But it's very, very sketchy towards the end of these races.
Take a look here. Nagisa Yoshikawa battling with Ben Carswell. This is going to be for the 7th and 8th position. Your leaders have all single filed out, but how about the run for Yoshikawa? He's got to be among the leaders in positions gained, and there he is. At the top of that list, Ted Burns up 6, running in the 3rd position. Brendan Lichtenberg and James Watson. Well, I mean, Watson only up 1, Brian Karszewski up 2, so not exactly huge gainers, but big lap out of Brian Labarge that time by 21.293, new fastest lap of the race for the car that is running next to last in the field right now. It's like you said, Bizzle, these guys have figured this place out in terms of setup. And it really is a put your foot down and kind of nut up and ball out kind of night.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if every driver in the field is using some variation of Andrew Berry's setup from like a year and a half ago.
The new Smyrna setup, yes.
It just works everywhere.
Most of the ovals that this car goes to, whether it's in the officials or in the TNT Shock Series that will be coming back this fall, a lot of these places that setup is going to work for, just because you're kind of tied into parameters. And you have to use the little setup hacks that you can find. Once you find them, it's about setting the car up to go fast around what you have there.
Yeah, basically with this thing, with the way these guys have it dialed in, it's just set the wings and go. Maybe you might make a spring change. Here at Iowa, you might run a little bit of a softer spring because you're running less downforce, but that's about it.
Mike Holler, new fastest lap of the race out of the 13th position, 21.259. Good battle for second between Ted Burns and Brian Molitor. Oh, buddy, they're almost 3 wide back there. mid-pack. Kresge inside, Yoshikawa in the middle, and AJ Camargo running the outside of the racetrack. Yoshikawa now able to come down, clear Kresge. Man, that car already being a little bit twitchy off of turn number 2. Oh, one car bouncing it up off the outside wall. That was Brian Karszewski. Westshire drops the fastest lap of the race down to a 21-1 as Carter Lundy's going to look inside of Brian Molitor for the 3rd position. May thinking about going to work on Ted Burns for 2nd. This is what a pack race should feel like, by the way. It doesn't have to be 3 wide hairs on fire at Talladega. That's a draft-locked pack race. Here you can see everybody's tight, and the draft is keeping everybody close together. But you can make a move. You can dip inside. You can try the outside lane. And as the race goes on, the number of lanes you have to work with is only going to increase.
Now, this is just a little bit before my time, maybe into when I was a toddler, but my favorite era of racing to look back on is the Hanford era of the Champ Cars. That pack racing was just fantastic. Everyone was there, everyone was bunched together, but you had guys running the high line, running the low line, kind of picking up a huge run, making the move down the straightaway, getting crossed over and passed again in the corners. That is the most fun kind of pack racing.
Yes, a little bit artificial in that the Hanford device was basically a wicker bill that went on the rear wing, and it kind of sat upright, and it just created this massive wake of air off the back of the car. You could be, literally 2/3 of the straightaway away at California Speedway. Oh, and Lundy's in the wall! Around. Lundy spins in the middle of 3 and 4. Caution is out for the first time here tonight at the Iowa Speedway, and Lundy's night will likely be done. Yeah, he just can't get the car to turn. He will have to take the tow. We'll take a look here.
Wow, we get a player scheme. We get an old Ganassi scheme.
This is kind of Hanford era kart, isn't it?
A little bit.
Take a look at the instant replay. Follow Carter Lundy, that blue and white number 3 on the outside.
You can tell it looks almost like he's running one of my old setups where it just snaps around. Yep. It took me a lot of practice to get a feel, and I'm blessed to have really nice hardware, which I know Carter does as well, where you can kind of feel the car where it's starting to get light before it does, and you have to counter steer before the car even starts getting sideways with the way some of these cars will be set up tonight.
Yeah, it was just a little bit of a twitch, and that tiny overcorrection was really all it took. Several cars making their way down pit lane, and a lot of these cars have had issues tonight. Chris Kresge, Nagisa Yoshikawa, Mike Holler, Vic Aldrich, Brian Karszewski, all on pit lane right in and around the 7-second or so mark. What's interesting to me here is a lot of times we'll talk about a window where maybe taking tires could be beneficial. I think this might be that very, very short window where you got a caution flag. If you got to lap 50 or so, you're too far into the race, you're not going to make up the time. But you have enough laps left to go here that maybe you could make a set of new tires work. As everybody else goes off, you start to come in.
I'm not sure, because one funky thing with the Indy Pro 2000 cars, or I guess the USF2000 cars now, is the tires get better and better and better throughout the race. Yeah, by lap 65, they'll probably hit the cliff, but that's only 5 laps are in the cliff. Where the rest of that, you're going to be way better. If you pit now, you're still climbing the mountain before you hit the cliff, even at the checkered flag.
Yeah, that's true. And like we said, several of these cars did have issues. Mike Holler brushed the wall, I believe. We saw Chris Kresge hit the wall at one point. So you might as well come in and get any possible damage repairs done. But everybody in the 6.5 to 7.5 second range for their pit stops. So Looks like it may have been even just a little bit of fuel only, potentially, help tighten the car up a little bit. We'll see as the race develops here, but everybody inside the top 10 has not made a pit stop and will not make a pit stop here tonight. As we are working lap number 26, lights are out on the iRacing safety car. We have one lap till we go back to green. Taking a look at the series championship standings, and obviously this will be a drop week for a lot of these drivers, but David Porcelli is your top spot at 722. 22 markers back. Alexander Wesley Hazelworth, the law firm, running in second position. Everett Paddock, Mobin Khan, and Nicholas Daly, the top 5 in points. None of them are in the show here tonight as we go back to Green Flag Racing, and it was a great start for Richard Holt. He's going to have a 4-car length advantage over Ted Burns by the time they get to turn number 1, side by side, Ben Carswell and West Shire.
Very quickly, the field gets right back to single file.
Yeah, it just feels like it's too early to be kind of making anything crazy in terms of moves. As we see James Watson have the look inside of Brian Molitor. Molitor, I think, had the spot at the start-finish line, but it was close. Less than a tire length separating these two cars. And some of this even, taking a peek inside by Watson, that could also just be that's where the car handles best. Molitor's car handles best a little bit higher up the racetrack. So what sort of looks like a passing attempt really could just be the driver running their line and running their race. I mean, we still have 41 laps to go.
Yeah, one of the biggest things when I ran this in the full-sized open-wheel American race car was you want basically your nose cone to be level with the left rear tire of the car in the front. So if they were running a little bit off the bottom, you wanted that left part of the wing on the bottom, and that's how you saved your tires. On the flip side, if you're going to go to the reverse side of the car, you're going to go high, you want the whole wing in the air. The most important thing is you need that left side of the wing in the air, otherwise you're going to burn the right front off.
Yeah, a lot of very small decision making, we'll say. I mean, you're only talking 14 inches or so of space, maybe 18 inches from the center line to the tire. It's not a huge amount of space, but it's enough to get the airflow over the wings in the right way.
Yes, the biggest thing, I'm not sure how much it affects these smaller race cars, but in the real big fast stuff, you need air on that left front, otherwise the car just wants to go straight, even with the huge wings those things had. I was running it back, I haven't run the IR18 very much, but the 2012 iteration of the vehicle was very sensitive to that.
Yeah, the DW12
even with massive Kardashians.
Yeah, I say with the Kardashians hanging off the back end, that car was still very sensitive to aero push. And quite frankly, you may be even seeing a little bit of that here tonight out of the Indy Pros, but Watson and Molitor playing nice for a lap or two has allowed them to catch Ted Burns, and the gap between Burns and race leader Richard Holt's now down to about half a car length. Last 2 fastest laps of the race, last 3 actually now, set by Chris Kresge, Nagisa Yoshikawa, and Chris Kresge. They are making their way through the field. It's just a matter of are you going to get there as cross flags are up and we are halfway home. Taking a look ahead a little bit on the schedule here. Next week, we head off to Alton Park, a fantastic racetrack for these cars. And then one of my favorite stops they'll make this season, heading off to Sebring. That place, it's like Iowa, but a road course. Crazy fast, and some of the most insane moves we've ever seen have come out of Sebring in the PM18 car. Rest of the schedule, we go off to Interlagos, VIR, Phoenix, and then Sonoma to close out the season.
For Sebring, I wish they would run not the club version of the circuit, but the national version of the circuit, which is just the runways, turn 11, and then you kind of shoot up and hit a hairpin. It is a very, very fast, very bumpy circuit when they run it in that configuration. I think it would be perfect for these smaller race cars.
You know what? That would probably work better than regular Sebring for the USF cars. Because the PM18s are incredible on the big layout.
See, we ran that layout in the Classic IndyCar Series. We were replicating the 2008 or 2009 season of the real-life Indy Racing League. And we used that as a substitution for St. Petersburg, and it was an absolutely fantastic race. It was tight, it was nutty, it was bumpy, and frankly, it was some of the most fun I've had on the iRacing platform. So I think these smaller cars would do fantastic there.
Yeah, we may have to try that one for Fastmasters. It sounds like a blast. Now we've got a battle for second with Brian Molitor looking outside of Ted Burns, and that outside lane starting to come to life. How about Chris Kresge? Way high, wide, and handsome off of 4. Oh, man, what a battle back in the pack. Kresge, Shire, and Yoshikawa were 3 wide exiting turn number 2. Yoshikawa backed out of it. Kresge going to continue alongside of Shire. That battle settles down, but James Watson looking inside of Brian Molitor for third. Good fight towards the back of the pack as well. Almost starting to feel a little bit like, where is Watson going to go? I guess the theory or the thought process in saying that is he's kind of stuck. You either make a big dive bomb into turn 1 and risk taking out a couple of cars, or you're going way high to the outside where you probably need a little bit of help to get around. It's kind of like there's just nowhere for Watson to go.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about running this track in the bigger car was if you ran there right on that first dotted line towards the bottom, there was just barely not enough room for someone to get below you. And they definitely couldn't get around the high side, so you can kind of just sit there. Now, if you made a mistake, you bobbled up a little bit, you were very close to opening the door on the bottom side, but you didn't wear your tires very much. So that's kind of where you see Brian Molitor sitting right in front of him, just right on that white dotted line, and Watson can't get underneath, and it's very hard to go around the high side.
Race leader Richard Holt kind of running a similar line, maybe a little bit inside of what you're talking about, but similar in concept. He's not all the way down on that yellow line. He just doesn't have to protect it, and it doesn't leave the outside lane open either. Now Kresge having the look inside of Carswell. That fight for the 5th position. In fact, Kresge's going to try to go 2 for 1 around Watson.
Yeah, and that yellow line is very, very hard to run around. That's the fastest way around this track with your left side tires glued to it. But that yellow line is made out of lava, and if you touch it, you'll be spun around faster than you can say, holy crap. So definitely do not want to touch that yellow line. Frankly, I've wrecked so many times from touching it, I'm afraid to even look at it.
Yeah, in a lot of instances, there's just kind of no need to get down there that far either. But now we're starting to see Richard Holt try to cover off the draft, coming from 2 lanes that are working behind him. Ted Burns sort of by himself. He's got Wes Shire coming to help. Now Brian Molitor. Well, Molitor had the look inside. He'll run the middle of the grooves. But now Burns falling all the way back behind Ben Carswell. Man, Watson is in such a tricky spot here. Trying to work the outside around Molitor while also not leaving the super high line open for Kresge. Because that number 11 machine is an absolute rocket around this place tonight. The lead sitting at 0.4 of a second for Richard Holt. He's able to open the gap up as the battle for second has been intense. He's the one guy who doesn't want to see a caution at this point in the race. Good run as well for Ben Carswell. He's up 3 spots into position number 5. Your hard charger of the race at this point, Nagisa Yoshikawa, up 6, running in the 8th position. You wonder if this kind of pack of 2 through the rest of the field hasn't started to say, hey, we're going to have to single file out here. Otherwise, Richard Holt is going to run away with this thing.
Not necessarily. If someone out of these cars back here running side by side, if they can get single file, you're still close enough to get in the draft. These things will not only bump draft, they will leapfrog very, very well. So if they can play nice, just a little bit, they'll catch right up to Richard Holt and frankly pass him like he's a sitting duck.
Well, Kresge able to quickly get around Molitor for second. And you have somebody fast towing that line, they're going to catch up to the leader. That's what you're seeing here. It was 0.4 of a second. Call it a 1/10.5 off of 2. Down to 12 to go, and Kresge has the look inside for the race lead. Watson tries to head down bottom with him, slides up the racetrack. About took the front end off of Molitor's machine. Now Holt going to try the crossover. Watson almost ended up in the middle as Kresge slides up the racetrack. Two for one, thank you, sir. May I have another blue light special? As Watson makes the big dive inside on Holt. Almost had him clear off of 4. It's going to be Holt at the line by 6/100ths of a second.
Oh man, Brian Molitor into the wall in the trioval. I told you these guys would catch right up to Richard Holt.
And really the first time we've seen Holt challenge this entire race. Watson makes the look inside. He's going to bring Kresge with him. But James Watson up into the race lead. Kresge squirreling his way at the entry to corner number 3. Where did Ben Carswell come from? Up to the 4th position. Methodically making his way through the field. Great run tonight for the 8. Has himself in contention for a podium. Kresge inside of Watson at the line. It's Watson by half a car length. Oh, and caution is out. Yellow flag is out with 7 laps to go. Oh, and the AJ Camargo absolutely junked.
Now, I believe that race car arrived to the facility with a lot more parts attached to it.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, a little big contact with Wes Shire. Mike Long getting a big piece of Camargo as well. That's a tough look. We'll check that one again from the overhead, because I honestly don't know which direction that you kind of take this one. Shire got a great run off the corner. Maybe
Shire
a little net code,
there.
but yeah.
He was clearly going for the move. I don't know if Neji tried to close the door, didn't realize he was there. But that, to me, sitting up here watching that, it almost looks like you cut off a semi-truck that's already doing 70 miles an hour.
Yeah. It's a tough spot, and I'll tell you what, it's going to be a tough spot for everybody else in this field that's not named James Watson here, potentially. We are going to go back to green, it looks like, with 3 laps to go. We saw Richard Holt be able to jump out to a very big lead, big enough that the challenge didn't happen in just those couple of laps.
Yeah, and I'm not sure everyone's going to play so nice anymore. I think Watson's going to have an immediate attack by Kresge on the top side. Kresge's not going to want to sit back and fall in line. Then he's going to have to worry about Richard Holt right behind him. If Watson tries to run that middle line, Holt's going to shoot it right up the inside. And of course, Ben Carswell, he's been sitting there kind of patiently in that 4th spot. I wouldn't be surprised to see a big move out of him. You've made it this far, got not much to lose at this point.
Yeah, other than potential championship implications. And the reason that I say that is not all of these guys are Division 1. Chris Kresge is not in contention for a championship at all here.
Kresge's got nothing
to lose.
Watson, however, if I'm James Watson, I'm sitting there going, hey, I'm in championship contention. If Kresge's going to go and wreck everything because he's got nothing to lose to go win this race, it hurts to say, but let him win it. I'd much rather finish 2nd than get wrecked out and have to finish 13th.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that comes into play here, and maybe some of this. Now, Carswell leading Division 4 by a pretty comfortable margin. So maybe a little bit less to think about. But I'll tell you what, a chance to pick up a broadcast SOF win, that's something that these guys are just not going to screw around with. In fact, we're not going to go back green. We're down to 3 to go.
And lights are still on.
And lights are still on the iRacing safety car.
Could we see one of those infamous, but unfortunately all too common, not even 1 to go, but the pace car flips the lights off when they take the white flag, pace car pulls into the pits, and it's a 400-foot drag race to the line?
Quite possibly. I'll tell you what, though, Watson has got to be loving this.
Yeah, I'm James Watson. Keep those lights on the pace car. Somebody else go and spin it and delay this thing.
So we'll see if the lights turn off here. It's 2 to go right now.
Well, we're approaching 2 to go.
Correct. It'll be 2 to go, this time by the start-finish line.
Lights are still on, and
lights are
out. It's going to be a 1-lap shootout.
It will be green and white flag together. What does Chris Kresge try to do to get around James Watson?
If I'm Chris Kresge, nothing to lose. Hell, he doesn't even race that much. He can take a 2-week suspension. I'm going to lay back on this start. As soon as that pace car pulls it, I'm going to be on the throttle. I want to be just ahead of Watson as soon as we cross that line.
That's such a gutsy move. Now, you can't pass inside until you're past the start-finish line.
Yep.
So if Watson holds the outside wall, he can force the field behind him.
Not only that, if Kresge goes to make a move to the inside, I've done this before. I will tap the brake and let him pass me when we hit the start-finish line. Watson gets a good start, but he's going to be a sitting duck all out there. He is way ahead.
I don't know. White flag, 1 to go. I don't know that they're going to get caught up to him. Watson by 4/10 off of turn 2. Ted Burns looking inside of Ben Carswell in the battle for the 4th position. Off of 3 and 4 for the final time. Kresge hits the wall. Watson gets the win at Iowa. Chris Kresge comes home second. Richard Holt will round out your podium in a fantastic Indy Pro race here at the Iowa Speedway. Some of the Team Watson cars coming down here. Nagisa Yoshikawa doing the donuts and the burnouts with Watson here at the start-finish line in a fantastic show. Let's get you your race results. James Watson picks up the win over Chris Kresge. Richard Holt, Ted Burns, and Ben Carswell complete the top 5. 6 through 10, Nagisa Yoshikawa, Brian Molitor, Mike Holler, Mike Long, and Brian Karszewski. 11 through 16, Brian Labarge, Brendan Lichtenberg, and Vic Aldrich, the final car on the lead lap. Wes Shire and AJ Camargo going out in the incident that brought out our final caution flag, and Carter Lundy going out very early in this race, bringing out caution number 1. He will finish tonight in the 16th position. Absolutely fantastic show here tonight. Let's see. All right, well, we'll make do with what we can get here in terms of the cameras, but let's bring up our race winner tonight, Mr. James Watson, into the booth. And, man, I'll tell you what, brother, hell of a show. At one point we said it seemed like you were kind of stuck and had nowhere to go. The seas parted and you put that yellow machine out there in Victory Lane. Congratulations, brother.
Oh, my God. Oh, I can't even describe how good this feels, man. Like, oh, my God, like these races have always meant a lot. You know, this is one of my most used cars, especially on ovals. You know, and like every time I would run the SOF, I just get some sort of bad luck or something, and I'm just like all this time, I'm like, man, if I can just survive, if I can get one chance to show, that's all I need. And oh my God, I finally got it. Yeah, I wasn't sure. First of all, I was so irritated with myself because like I messed up qualifying. Like I clipped the apron on my go lap, and first time all week, and I'm starting 7th. I'm like, God damn it. I'm like, this is what always happens. I qualify poorly and I get caught up in something. And so I just started trying to move my way through the field, and like I was holding like 3rd and like battling with Brian and Kresge. I'm like, man, I know I can get up to the front. I just need to make the move. And finally, I just kind of said, you know what, I'm gonna nut up, ball out, and send it. And I put a couple sliders on Kresge and Holler and Richard. First time I tried to pass him, I almost damn near killed all of us because she got loose on me in the middle of the corner, and I had to do like a quick little flick to the right to save it. And I thought for sure, even when I realized I saved, I thought for sure my race was over. But I managed to get back in line, have another send, and get him. And that caution helped me out so big because Kresge was so quick. If that was like a 2-lap, if it was a green, white, checkered, I don't think I would have been able to hold him off. Kresge is just always like really, really good here. So once I saw that it was only going to be a 1-lap shootout, I'm like, well, I'm going to go delete all the hate posts that I posted in regards to IndyCar for the finish of the 500 this year. 1-lap shootouts are great.
You just answered every question I was going to ask in a 6-minute answer. You are allowed to breathe, brother. Holy crap! That was awesome.
Hey, I'm with you all the time Thursday, so I know exactly what question you're gonna ask.
James, when you were in school, did you ever learn what a run-on sentence was?
See, my teachers would always write that I put a lot of them in my papers, but I never figured out what exactly they were, so I just kept getting those critiques. Kind of weird.
Holy crap, that's beautiful. Well, we got to eventually start getting ready for the USF race. So before we let you go, do all the sponsor plugs and thank yous, and then we've got a couple more interviews to take care of here, too.
Yeah, first I got to thank everyone at Team Austin Racing Setups. Yosh put up a incredibly badass setup, and I'm so grateful with what he put together, helping me get up there and get this long-awaited dub. Use code WattSpin39 for 10% off at checkout. I gotta thank Martin Sports, Sim Racing Apparel, you, and of course everyone else at the National Racing Network, ZAS Designs and Dizzy V Designs for putting together my paint schemes. And I always forget to thank my parents who always watch every broadcast race I'm in. I could hear my pops clapping and celebrating from the other room. So yeah, I'll see you in here shortly for the USF broadcast, because yeah, I ain't running that one.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, James, thank you very much. Time now to bring in our third place finisher here tonight, Richard Holt. And man, I'll tell you what, that race seemed like it was in your hands for the majority of it. The car looked really good. Setup was obviously on point to keep it out front. Talk us through kind of what you saw from behind the wheel.
Yeah, it was always going to be difficult to keep the lead, I think. You can't break the draft here, so they're always going to catch me towards the end. And once James got by, Christopher got by, and he did a great job of keeping me pinned in behind James there, and I couldn't do anything. And then the caution came out, and I think maybe without the caution we could have got the win, but 1-lap shootout was never going to happen.
Yeah, it sort of seemed like we talked about it with a couple of different drivers. In fact, we mentioned it about James at one point, that if you had two cars in front of you, you were kind of stuck and there was just nowhere to go, especially when they were as fast as Chris and James were tonight, and you were, for that matter, you and Ted. It just kind of seemed like once you got to third, you had to wait for the move ahead of you to happen, and then you had to react and try to go 2 for 1.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like I said, Christopher kept me pinned in, so I couldn't even make it free ride or anything like that.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, fantastic drive tonight. Congratulations on another podium, getting up here on the interviews for the broadcast, and we appreciate the support of the car and the series each week. But before we let you go, make sure you do all the big sponsor plugs and thank yous here as well.
Yeah, thanks, man. Big shout out to Cobalt Racing, my team, and Team Watson Setups for the amazing setup this week, and you guys for the great broadcast.
All right, brother. Well, thank you much. We appreciate the kind words from you there. And, man, I'll tell you what, Bizzle, we got a heck of a show here out of this one. I think the next one might be a little bit crazy because you start to think about how that car likes to be pinned down on the inside of the racetrack. It forces people to kind of go nuts and make the bonsai move. And, oh, by the way, there's no caution flags either.
Oh, yeah, no caution flags just means you screw up, you hit the wall, you're pretty much done. You spin out, you're done. There's no room for error. It's a much shorter race, so the heat is turned up to dial number 10. Hell, turn it up to 11, and that's where they're going to be at. no room for error, and you got to be on the ball the entire time.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that one, but we are going to take a short break here as we wait for that server to get fired up. We will be back here in just a couple of minutes. You are watching the U.S. Open Wheel Doubleheader right here on the National Racing Network.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
Bro, you gotta stop with that depression stuff. That's a white people thing.
Escúchame, en esta casa los hombres no lloran.
You alright?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
Thanks for hearing me out, bro. Appreciate it.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
I'm Ryan Newman, and since I started with Indiana Donor Network and Driven to Save Lives, I found out that some people think that they can't be an organ donor. The truth is, anyone can sign up to be an organ donor.
Anyone?
Anyone?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Anyone can sign up to be an organ donor. So don't count yourself out because somebody's counting on you. Go to driventosavelives.org and sign up today.
But my heart's going to you, Ryan.
Love that shirt.
Welcome back, everybody, to the National Racing Network's live coverage of the U.S. Open Wheel Championship. Now it will be the stars and cars of U.S. Open Wheel D-Class. Coming up here from the Iowa Speedway. My name is Chris Graham, once again joined by Mr. Patrick Byrne in the booth, and Mr. James Watson joining us for the show now after picking up the win in the C-Class race. He's going to hop up into the booth with us here for D-Class. Practice is just getting ready to wrap up here. As we talked about a little bit earlier here, Bizzle, Iowa Speedway, 7/8 of a mile, 12 to 14 degrees of banking. Elio Castro Neves holds the track record here to 17.2. The USF cars are only about 2 seconds slower than, and actually even less than that, slower than what we saw out of the PM18s. But these things are going to drive so much differently around here.
Yeah, these cars are a good deal slower than the Indy Pro 2000 cars, and that kind of makes them more fun. A little bit less downforce, but they are definitely flat out. 100 less horsepower, probably a 10-mile-an-hour speed difference. It's going to be an absolutely wild one here.
Yeah, and James, I think we're going to see a little bit of get on the bottom and stay on the bottom is the order of the night here around this place. But that also means you kind of get a little bit of the argy-bargy or grab-ass, whatever else you want to call the game. And you kind of have to force your way through if you're going to make a move.
Yeah, it's basically going to be like how the PM18 was around Iowa back when the car was first released. Back then when it had a lot more downforce, that's pretty much what it was just hug the bottom line and no one else could get a run around you. So essentially, unless you can pull off a miracle, I think whoever gets pole is going to have an overwhelming chance to take home the win tonight.
Well, that could be Brian Molitor, lap number 2 for Molitor, 22.973. First car down in the 22s, Corey Hart, second quick. Ted Burns and Alexander Labras are your top 4 that have completed lap times. Let's pick up Evan Zalesnik. He is currently 6th quick, working lap number 2 as Justin Kay jumps up to position number 2. Zalesnik moving up into the 5th position. Guy who was absolutely dominant in the C-Class race until just a handful of laps to go. Richard Holt making his way around on lap number 1. No surprise here. Run it up on the outside. Get the tires as hot as you can possibly get them. Arc it way down low off of turn number 4 and then hug that yellow line all the way around this place.
Yeah, qualifying here is a treat. And just like you saw, you don't want to hug it the whole way around. You want to open it up just a little bit in the straightaways. It's excessive to bring it to the wall, but you don't want to scrub any more speed than you have to.
Holt off of turn number 4. Lap number 2 will go up on the board, and it will be second quick, 23.013. Second on the grid tonight for Richard Holt, and he will be the last car that will get a lap in here in qualifications at the Iowa Speedway. 12 cars on the entry list here, 11 in split number 2. My math is pretty good, says that is 23 cars in total on the entry list. You'll start to hear everybody firing the engines up. Burn off as much fuel as you possibly can out of these cars. As we get ready to roll, let's show you the starting grid for tonight's race. On the pole will be Brian Molitor with a lap time of 22.973. Starting to his outside, the sponsor we're not allowed to say on the internet anymore. Vintage F1 livery belonging to Richard Holt. Row number 2 will have another F1 livery. This one, the Benetton colors belonging to Justin K. And the Harbor Freight number 2 of Corey Hartz. The fact that somebody made a Hazard Fraught Tools livery for the D-Class car is a thing of beauty, and I am here for it. I may actually start running that personally. Row number 3, the Downforce Racing number 1 of Ted Burns alongside the number 5 of Travis Pullen. Row 4 will have Evan Zalesnik, the first car, a tenth of a second back, alongside the Husky Chocolates, number 10 of Jake Mackey. Another Benetton, Alexander Labras, inside of row number 5. Lining up to his outside will be the number 11 of Brian Carter. On the final row of tonight's race will be Arian Pagadala in the number 8 alongside of the number 12 of Sam Liotta. Is that a Buick logo? It is a Buick number 12. I'll take it. .40 laps will be the race distance here tonight, and it will be caution-free. That's the big one here, Bizzle. Not only can you get caught up in somebody else's mistake, but you can't make one of your own because you have no prayer of getting that yellow flag to pack everybody up and kind of get a reset.
Yeah, it's kind of like you make a mistake, you're screwed. So while the temperature is all the way up, you got that dial cranked to 11, you're searing everything in the pan, you still got to know there's a chance you're going to burn it, and it's all going to be over.
Turning a Spinal Tap joke into a this is your brain on drugs joke.
Yeah, you're cracking the egg and sizzle.
Bizzle from the Bizzle.
Bizzle sizzles. I'm gonna open a restaurant. That's gonna be the name. And Watson, you'll get $10 every month for naming it. Thank you very much.
Yay!
Pace car is in. Green flag is out. We are underway. Wow.
Oh,
jumbled start. Brian Molitor gets the early jump. 3 wide for second into 2.
Oh my god.
Oh, get
Barney
after
is
it.
sleeping tonight because I would have called that green flag off, re-racked him, and send him away.
Yeah, none of that happened. Oh, one car going around, and he saved it.
Never mind.
Brian Carter all the way down to the inside. He still didn't hit anything.
They'll be able to get some pretty good positions when they inevitably kill themselves.
That's a fair point.
You are not wrong, James. Out of line, but not wrong. Molitor holding on to the lead by 2/10 over Teddy B, but that gap's going to be fully closed up by the time they get to turn number 1. Richard Holt runs the fastest lap of the race at a 23 flat. Top 2 single file. After that, 2x2. Interesting that Holt did not go for the inside lane there. He had a little bit of room to get his number 3 down to the inside lane. Does not take it. But he's going to have a little bit of, well, he had a little bit of drafting help.
I mean, he's kind of able to get it to work pretty decently.
Well, he's got help. I think that's the key here. Is you've got to have a lot of help on the outside lane. And the other one, you just saw it there all down the straightaway. You got to know how to side draft and make that work to your advantage as well.
Yeah, the side draft's surprisingly effective in these cars. You get that air coming off of your front wing, and you're kind of pushing it off your side pod into the rear wing of the car that's next to you, and it slows them way down.
Honestly, if they can keep right there for the rest of the race, I would be surprised to not see Teddy B go up there with like the last 10 laps or so. Whoa.
Oh, 3 wide into the corner. Everybody's going to keep it on the straight and narrow. That was Sam Liotta making the big dive. Brian Molitor still holding on to the race lead, but they are fully packed up behind him. Top 11 cars all within 1 second of the race leader. Only 12th place Brian Carter, 13 seconds back, but he has save of the night by far.
Yeah, I feel bad for Brian. It's got to be the loneliest drive.
And that's exactly it, because if they wad them up here at the front, you could be looking at a top 5 potentially even. But you just have to keep running by yourself monotonously.
Yeah, pack race tracks are only fun when it's a pack race. If it's just by yourself,
You're sitting there listening to the hidden track of Green Day's Dookie album all by myself, and then all of a sudden, these guys come up running behind you, and out of nowhere, you're going to be sitting there 5th, 6th position. I would hate to be the leader right now. I want to be the leader on lap 40, and that's it.
I'm sorry, Patrick. I didn't quite catch what you said because I was too busy thinking, wait, there's a hidden track on Dookie?
There is. It's 5 minutes after track 13. You have to sit there and listen to dead silence for 5 minutes, but then all of a sudden, Billy Joel Armstrong, he starts singing All By Myself.
Of course. MCR did the same thing on the Black Parade. I should have known.
I've got a copy of Dookie. I'll drop it off at your house next time I'm over there.
Oh, I believe me. I have a copy of that too.
Sit there and listen to it.
I've owned it for 10 years now. God. Anyways, back to the race.
I remember that album coming out.
Well, Chris, not everyone remembers typewriters and telegraphs.
Yeah.
I actually saw them in concert before Dookie even came out.
That's right. I forgot you were a California kid.
Yep.
I don't like you anymore. Let me forget it again.
Big words from New York. Anyways, back to the race.
Says 2 guys that both want to live in Ohio.
I don't live here by choice.
Live there by choice.
Patrick lives here by choice. Exactly, and that's what's wrong with you. Anyways, back to the
really.
These guys are having a fantastic show out here. Brian Molitor still out there by himself in the front. Ted Burns, though, up to 2nd. Can he catch Brian? If any driver in the field can, I think it's him.
Well, he's going to sit there content, I think, on the inside of the racetrack. There's just no reason to make a big move at this point. Because all you're going to potentially do is wreck yourself or everybody else in the process. And we're only 16 laps into this thing, not even halfway yet. The other thing I'm a little bit surprised at, since we last mentioned Brian Carter back in 12th, the field's only gained about 2 seconds on him. So running by yourself versus running in the draft is not a huge number. It is obviously distinct and faster, but he's not losing a ton of ground. He may not go a lap down is the key there.
Well, it kind of depends on the context. Like, when they're running 2x3 wide like a bunch of knuckleheads, it's going to affect their speed. If they were single file in a line, then yeah, they'd be running Ryan down a lot quicker. But with them side by side like this, it slows down the energy of the pack. And
Now,
obviously, go on.
One thing to remember is there's no cautions, no way he's going to catch this pack. So,
yeah,
frankly, he is just running around here, maybe praying to whatever god he prays in, that some of these cars are going to wreck and he is going to pass them easily. Otherwise, he's going to finish 12th, whether he parks it now or parks it after the checkered flag.
Pick a god and pray for half the field to get turned into the outside ball.
Exactly. That's all he is doing right now.
Well, and at least to this point anyway, they're behaving themselves.
The other thought is this is a D-Class series, and one big thing about that is you're just out there for the safety rating. It's a running joke in iRacing, but if you're sitting all the way back there, each one of these corners where you're all by yourself is free safety rating. So nothing wrong with that. Going out there, you're registered for the session, might as well go out there and run the laps. Get the license up.
Except for the 2x he got from the initial spin.
Well, exactly, but every lap you run around here, it negates the negatives off that, and if you are still a D-licensed driver, I'm not sure what license Brian holds, if he is still a D-license, it still could be a positive turnout in safety rating for him tonight.
He's a B-Class 3.49, actually.
So he could potentially get probably around...
Maybe... No, I'd say maybe half a tenth. Even still, I'd rather gain half a tenth than lose a tenth.
Yeah, that's exactly it. At this point, you're turning laps and hoping for the best.
Mama didn't raise no quitter.
Looking outside, fourth place, Travis Pullen. He's trying to make something happen to get around Richard Holt. Holt doing a nice job keeping that car at the front, though, of the outside lane. And ever so slightly, they are starting to make ground on Brian Molitor. The problem for Molitor is if you move up top to break the draft of that top lane, you're just hurting yourself momentum-wise. So you kind of have to keep it down on the inside and just hope the outside lane doesn't get enough energy build up.
That's the hardest thing about Iowa in these open wheel cars is it's not like a stock car where you can move up and block the momentum. If you open that door up on the bottom, they're going to be there to take it. The bottom line is the fastest. The top line might gain momentum here and there, but you just got to stick in your head, not let it get to your head, and just hold that bottom line, and you should be set. Well, I say should because we've seen some wild stuff. They can pick up 1,000th over the line on that top line.
I was just going to say, Richard Holt able to get around Ted Burns, but Burns able to claw back that little bit of ground inside into 3. It was about 2/100ths of a second at the line that time. Burns able to grab the lap. Really, Travis Pullen, that 5 car, the black 5 car on the outside lane, is going to be the key to this thing. If he stays tucked up behind Richard Holt, it's going to be, I was going to say, they're going to get to the front. But you're not going to make that pass on the outside lane. You just have to be really, really patient.
Yeah, going back to what Patrick said, it's really hard to build up enough of a run in a pack race like this to clear and get yourself fully in front, but it's a lot easier to build up enough of a run to edge ahead at the line. Like, I remember it back when the production car challenge used to run ovals. I did that in the MX-5. I was behind the guy in second on the inside lane the entire race, and then I went around the outside and was able to carry enough momentum to get him at the line. He led the entire race until then. You can pull that off, provided the outside line is dedicated enough to keep going.
Not only that, these cars can and will bump draft. It's very risky and not advised in an official race like this where there's safety rate and I rating on the line. But we've seen it time and time again in Fastmasters where there's absolutely nothing on the line, where these things not only bump draft effectively, but it's frankly better than a stock car bump drafting. So maybe if Ted Burns and someone else want to get together, they can make a hell of a move happen on the top side, frankly, even against that outside wall, if they wanted to.
Heck, I even bump drafted in Molitor in the earlier race. So it's a whoa! I thought that was it.
Wow! Stephen C. Thompson checking in. Oh, sweet baby Jesus, this looks terrifying. Yeah, it does. It's a hell of a show, though. Go Corey Hartz. Woo, Harbor Freight. Yes.
Yeah, honestly, it would not surprise me if the outside lane falls back just a little bit. It would not surprise me if we see Teddy B make his move up there with like 5 to go.
Yeah, it's almost like Holt and Burns kind of need to figure out a way to talk to each other, get in the same Discord somehow, and say, hey, let's make this move together and then we'll settle it amongst ourselves.
Whoa, that was a late set.
Oh.
As someone who is a proud
wow. Left side loving, right side romance, back to back. And if this was intense before, it's going to get really cranked up now as we're down to 5.5 laps to go.
Give me heartburn back to that old Phoenix race we did a couple seasons ago with these where we were like 4 wide in the SOF and turn 1.
Oh, one car hard into the outside wall. Arian Pagadala. Huge hit.
Move Brian Carter up to 11th.
Poor Brian's like, that's it? Just one car?
Yeah.
He's getting ready to go a lap down here if there are maybe 10 more laps in this race.
Yeah, he will not be in danger of going a lap down. At least I don't think he will. Leader's still about 3 seconds back, and it's going to be 3 to go this time.
He could still be a factor, though. These leaders are starting to get him within draft range, and if he starts running up high like he is right now, that could really pull that top line to get ready to make a move.
Yeah, Teddy B kind of has nowhere to go. He's boxed into that hole we talked about James being boxed into in the C-Class race. You have somebody outside. There's nowhere to go inside.
Yeah, but just remember, they are allowed to run below that yellow line. Now, I talked about that yellow line being lava, but going through the tri-oval for a last-ditch effort for the win, hell, I'd go behind there.
Yeah, that's about the one spot that it'll really work because the entry to turn 3 is just no dice if you're down there below the apron, or on the apron, I should say.
Yeah, you could see them both backing up a little bit off the number 4 car, trying to build up a little bit of run.
White flag is out. 1 lap to go. Brian Molitor has led every lap thus far. Is he going to lead the final one? Holt gets a good run into 3, but it may not be enough. Burns, he'll make the move inside. Twin checkers in the air. Brian Molitor.
Oh, man.
Molitor gets the win at Iowa, followed by Ted Burns and Richard Holt across the line for 2nd and 3rd. Get you a look at your race winner, Brian Molitor. Fantastic drive out of Molitor tonight. In a race that you had to keep everything on the straight and narrow. Absolutely fantastic. Taking a look here, we'll bring this one up because another $10 to the Bizzle Buzz Fund. Cody Brooks checking in. What's going on, brother?
Oh, yeah,
Hopefully you
Cody,
enjoyed the
thanks, buddy.
show. Carl Lemcool also checking in. Good points night for DFR. Go Ted. Yeah, absolutely. A very good night for Downforce Racing. The Track Bar also checking in. Corey Hart's getting a little more love. That's absolutely fantastic. Let's take a look here and show you your race results. Brian Molitor gets the win by 87 thousandths of a second over Ted Burns. Richard Holt comes home third. Corey Hartz and Travis Pullen complete the top 5. 6 through 10, Sam Liotta, Alexander Labras, Justin Kay, Evan Zalesnik, and Jake Maki. 11th and 12th, the 2 cars that had issues, Brian Carter and Arian Pagadala. Track Bar checking in. Great broadcast, first time watcher. Well, we'll give you the shout out. We don't have the bell to ring or anything, but thank you very much. We appreciate you coming to hang out with us over here on YouTube.
I got a bell to ring.
This is your captain speaking. All right, let's bring up our second place finisher here tonight, Mr. Ted Burns. And man, I'll tell you what, brother, the car looked really good. It was fast in practice and qualifying, and ultimately just kind of nowhere to go through the entirety of 40 laps for you.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's fun, but it's more just like nerve-wracking because yeah, there's nowhere you could go. You couldn't get a run. I mean, that first lap was interesting. Went 5th up to 2nd, so I think there's some 3 wide in there, and that was for sure fun, a little bit nail-biting. But I think after that, it was just kind of follow the leader around. Hoping maybe I could try and make a move under Brian. On the last lap, I was thinking way back to Kylo trying to go underneath me at Daytona. Shortcut across the grass, but I just didn't have a big enough run, couldn't do it. So, props to Brian. He put in an awesome qualifying lap and definitely deserved that one.
Yeah, and it just kind of seemed like it was that race where keep it on the bottom, keep it in line. Once you had the spot, no point in doing anything too crazy. Did you give any thought to some sort of bonsai move in those last couple of laps?
I mean, I thought about it, but at the end of the day, everyone was racing really clean, and wanted to keep it that way. I don't think there was any getting past Brian without some contact. He left the door open a couple times, maybe like mid-corner. If I had a run and knew he was going to be going a little high, I could have shoved up the inside, especially a little bit earlier in the race. But you can never predict that. So I'm just going to think he's going through the corner like normal. I have to give it a little breathe on the throttle, get my front wing and a little bit of fresh air below his left rear tire, and just try and follow it around. So maybe if I knew he was going to make a mistake, I could have driven a little bit harder and made it interesting. But you never know. So going to err on the side of safety and try and keep it clean with everyone else out there, because it was some tight racing, and it was very respectful the entire time.
Well, congratulations on the podium finish here tonight, coming home second. And before we let you go here, make sure you do all the big sponsor plugs and thank yous here as well.
Yep, I got to thank Downforce Racing. Didn't have any teammates tonight, but they gave me an awesome setup in the Indy Pro. I was just a little short on fuel, so I had to fuel save a little bit and couldn't quite get the result I wanted there. So glad I could put it on the box in the USF, have a little bit of redemption for tonight. And thanks you guys for putting on an awesome broadcast each week. I love watching it, even if I can't drive it every week. And for everyone coming out and making this series so much fun.
All right, buddy. Thank you very much. We appreciate it there, Ted Burns. And we're going to bring in our 4th place finisher here tonight as well. Corey Hartz, you're getting a lot of love in the comments, so what the hell, we'll bring you up into the booth. Congratulations on a good run here, putting yourself up into a top 5 position. Talk us through the night and what you were seeing behind the wheel of the number 2.
Yeah, thanks. I think this is my first time being on the broadcast. It was just holding on in the number 2 Sus Motor Club Harbor Freight USF2000 car. It was just it was just holding on. That bottom line, hey, it's more intense than like a stock car plate race because you're lifting a little bit and you're in open wheel cars where if you touch each other, you're gonna blow up the whole field. So luckily we didn't have any 1050s, didn't have any crashes, any major crashes. I know there was our buddy in the 8 who tried to send it 3 wide in the last 10 laps there. 3 wide middle, wasn't even 3 wide top, so that wasn't the smartest, but he ended up getting rid of himself. So that handled that, and we had a pretty good clean run to the finish. So yeah, fairly enjoyable setup. Definitely tight, but enjoyable race.
Well, I tell you what, yeah, you are absolutely blowing up the comments here, so we'll keep bringing them up as they come in. But talk us through how you drive that different, because you mentioned the difference between the stock car and the open wheel car. Is that one of those where foot's to the floor and you use the left foot to drag a little brake? Is it kind of sliding in and inside, outside? What's the thought process on that one?
Yeah, I mean, here, you're not really braking at all. You're just lifting out of the corner, and if you're up front, you're not lifting out at all. I've led 2 of these this week, and up front you're just staying in the gas and trying to, at least what I was doing on the one that I won, just kept it to the inside, and that way nobody can pass you to the inside. Brian actually let folks come up and let the top side get a draft, but stock cars just move around so much more. They're wiggly, and there's a lot more feeling of dirty air, especially the trucks are really bad. Just the feeling of dirty air. You get behind someone and they're wiggling around, and these are a lot more steady and on the ground. But these, if you do make a get my words jumbled up. If you do make a wrong, let's try again. If you do make a wrong move, it can really mess up your race here.
Oh, my goodness. That is fantastic, brother. Well, I tell you what, I appreciate you coming to hang out with us tonight because we only had you and Teddy for the interviews here. But congratulations on the top 5. And before we let you go, do all the big sponsor plugs and thank yous.
Yeah, I'll thank Harbor Freight for holding the car together with duct tape and Harbor Freight zip ties and Pittsburgh wrenches. The left rear suspension was held on with zip ties, so yeah, that worked good. And thanks to all my Sus Motor Club teammates, Grayson and Derek and Dakota. So thanks to them for being moral support in the comments. That's probably who has been in the comments. So thanks to them, and thanks to y'all for the broadcast. This is the first time I've been on the broadcast, and thanks for interviewing the 3rd place loser.
Yeah, thank you much, brother. We appreciate you coming to hang out with us here in the booth for a minute. That was worth every penny.
I like Corey. We need to get Corey in the booth more often. He's got to finish top 3 next time.
Yes, we do. Rockstar saying, Corey, words are good for your speech.
Hell yeah, brother.
Yes. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, fantastic show tonight here out of the U.S. Open Wheel D-Class cars. Man, good show out of the C-Class. Iowa Speedway is, James, just absolutely fantastic for these little open wheelers.
Yes, sir. It's one of the premier open wheel tracks in the country, honestly. It doesn't matter what it is, it just works so well. Whether it's the big redacted car, the USF2000 or the Indy Pro 2000, it never fails to put on a show.
Yeah, and Bizzle, quite frankly, we're going to see 2 more of these this weekend. The action kicks off tomorrow with practice at the Iowa Speedway for the NTT IndyCar Series. I am looking forward to that one. But looking ahead to next week here, the crowds head to Nashville Superspeedway, Sim Racers Club in Atlanta, and there is drama developing there that we can't talk about yet. But this is going to be absolutely hot and heavy here the next 6 weeks or so to round out Season 3.
Yeah, it is going to be absolutely fantastic here on the iRacing platform. So much going on. Frankly, I can't wait. We're to the closing part of this season, and I feel like I still miss Season 1 or Week 1 and ready to get into Week 2. It's crazy how fast this one happened.
Yeah, we're looking forward to everything we got coming up here. As we mentioned, Silver Crowns on Monday night from Nashville. Sim Racers Club Wednesday night at 9 p.m. in the East from Atlanta. And then next Thursday night, it'll be the U.S. Open Wheel Championship from Alton Park. But with that, time for us to get the heck on out of here. It has been a fantastic night of racing here on the National Racing Network. We all thank you very much for coming to hang out with us here, and we appreciate everybody that's blowing up the comments. Cody Brooks, thank you very much for the super chat. We appreciate that as well. And with that, time for us to get the heck on out of here. For James Watson, Patrick Byrne, and everybody here at the National Racing Network that makes these shows happen, my name is Chris Graham. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with us, and we will talk to you all soon. Have a great night, everybody.